Nation, welcome into a halftime edition of the Straight Up Saints podcast. I'm your host, Chris Rosvoglu, and this halftime show from us is presented by 4D. And if you're not watching Spencer Rattler play in this first half, you might need some 4D to get your energy up. But what an interesting first half of play for the Saints, who are entering an important quarterback two battle. And I know we still have a whole other half to play, but there's definitely some notes we can take from this final preseason game, at least the first two quarters, and we can discuss through there. I know the action's still going on with about 8 seconds left. Seems like Titans might get a chance to kick a long field goal, and then that will do it right now with it being 13-10. So similar to how we run our post-game shows, which we will have a post-game show after this game finishes. So stay tuned for that, guys, here at Boo Crew Media. Make sure to like our videos and also subscribe to the channel. I'm going to give some thoughts, and then we'll dive into what you guys have to say. So pretty similar structure. Let's start off with the basics, guys, and let's go with the heavy hitter here. Spencer Rattler versus Jake Haener. We know that's the quarterback battle. We know that's what everyone's talking about. I think, look, practices are different from preseason. So I know the Saints might see things in practice with Haener that he's able to do more consistent than Rattler. In the preseason games, though, the first game, I thought Rattler made the bigger plays. Maybe Haener was more efficient. Second game, I was pretty honest about it. I thought they both struggled. So far today, the gap between Jake Haener and Spencer Rattler is humongous. And for Rattler, the energy of this game changed. We're talking about a 10-0 ball game when he enters. Jake Haener was only 3 of 7 with just 20-plus yards, didn't look that sharp. And Rattler comes in, goes down the field, and gives us the best throw of the preseason from any Saints quarterback, including Derek Carr, with a touchdown pass to Equanimeous St. Brown in the right-hand corner of the end zone. And to follow up that drive with another decent 2-minute drill that unfortunately gets thwarted by drops and a little bit of miscommunication between him and St. Brown, because I thought that throw down the left side of the field was a pretty decent throw. You just need more help for your wide receivers, which is a different topic in itself. I think that the Saints have another problem to figure out there. I think the Saints don't have wide receiver depth, but sticking to quarterback, Rattler for me is clearly head and shoulders better than Jake Haener in these preseason games that matter to me. There's something about him. I know from a talent perspective he's better, but it just looks right with Jake. So I'm curious to see what the Saints decide to do after this game is over. But that was my first takeaway. Spencer Rattler to me looks like QB2. I don't think that Haener looks like him, at least not yet. And by the way, what a ridiculous way to end this first half with the Saints returning a field goal, and looks like they just got in. So that is absolutely absurd that just happened to end the first half. But Rattler, QB2 in my opinion. Second observation that I have, Penning is as inconsistent as it gets. First drive of the game had a ridiculously nice pancake block in pass protection. I was like, great, thumbs up. Next drive, he whiffs on an end around that basically blows up that play for Bub Memes. And I go, okay, here we go again with the inconsistencies. And the drive where Rattler had the touchdown pass to St. Brown, you're talking about a play for Penning where his pass protection is the reason that Rattler's able to get that throw off. So inconsistent. I still don't think he's a starter in this league. I think that those inconsistencies against depth and number one players on the opposing defenses will get exposed in this league. But there's at least some positives for him today. Again, I still don't think he's a starter. I think we're talking about a guy that is way too inconsistent against second and third stringers. What happens when he plays against the first team guys? But at least we saw some positives today. And my third observation, and I talked about this before, the Saints have 0 wide receiver depth. Absolutely 0. And it really, really concerns me. I feel like the Saints can't really address it at this point. The window is kind of passed. You can try to bring in a vet, but I don't know how much of an impact they're going to make for you at this point in the year. But it's a problem. I do not think the Saints have the depth to be a really explosive team in the passing game. So, again, Rattler looks like QB2 right now to me. Penning is as inconsistent as it gets. And also, when it comes to wide receiver talent, skill players, Saints are lacking it. How many drops have we already seen in the first half? Drop from A.T. Perry, drop from St. Brown, drop from Bub Means, drop from Jawan Johnson. Make the damn catch. And I know some of them aren't great throws. I know we're a little behind. You're going into traffic, but you got to catch the football, man. These are opportunities for everyone, not just the quarterback. So that's what scares me about this team, because those are things they can't fix. Olave and Shaheed are great, but Shaheed is hurt right now. And how much can you put on Olave's shoulders, especially when he's just in year 3? So I get worried about the Saints in that regard. But again, if you want some optimism for this first half and going forward, Rattler looked ridiculously good. This is the first half of him where nothing really scared me. You know, the escapability to extend plays, taking the hard hits, but still making the throws, dropping it in the bucket to St. Brown. And when he missed St. Brown on the second drive, he looks over to the coaching staff, and it's almost that look of like, man, I had it. It just didn't work out. And I think there is that confidence oozing out of Spencer Rattler right now. And we're still going to get another quarter of him. Whether it's the third or the fourth, we will get another quarter of Spencer Rattler. And honestly, I wish the Saints would just let him play the rest of the freaking game, because I feel like I've seen more from him than Haener to kind of make my opinion as to who I believe is better, at least through the preseason games. And that is Spencer Rattler. It's not Jake Haener, at least in my opinion. So I mentioned I was going to get to you guys. Let me get to some of your comments. So if you guys are in the chat, A, make sure to like the video. We'd greatly appreciate it. B, make sure to subscribe. And C, drop in your comments so I can pull them up. So we're going to start off with Alex. He says, I feel like Spencer's earned the backup role, improving week to week, and dropped some dimes today. Even his incompletions were pretty catchable. I agree with that. Absolutely. And to your point, Alex, you talk about the drops. I think that is a huge problem for the Saints that is going to leak into the season. Like, there's other problems today, like the first drive where the defense got gashed. They're not playing starters. I don't worry about stuff like that. Like, I jot it down, but I jot it down and put, granted, they're going up against the Titans starters, and that I shouldn't really get concerned over that. You're going up against Calvin Ridley and Pollard and all these players who, yeah, you know that realistically, you shouldn't have to worry about playing them without your starters in the regular season. You'll have your full array of guys. So I agree. That part scares me. Alex says, impressed with Mims today. A couple really nice upfield cuts. Impressed with both running backs. I would say this. When the running lanes are there, Mims and James Robinson have been taking advantage. When the running lanes are not there, it's a little bit different for them. But when they are there, I think both guys have played extremely well, and I want to give them credit for that. So we'll see what happens, but I think there's an argument for either one to make that. I think Mims has to make the roster over Robinson because he gives them a little bit more in the passing game, and he's just been a better practice player for them. But both of them have actually done a good job today. Rachel says, Rattler has an arm. He needs to play with the vets. I could see that. I could absolutely see that for sure. And you're probably not the only person who thinks that. I'd actually love to see how Rattler looks with the vets, but obviously that's not coming. That's not happening anytime soon, unless someone gets hurt. And obviously I'm not going to be that type of guy that wishes for that. So let's continue here. We got Vic saying he's balling. I agree. I think there's confidence there. I would not be surprised if we get another elite drive out of Spencer Rattler, because you can tell the confidence there today is just, he's ripping the ball out there. His guy's got to catch it, but he's ripping it. Cole Z says Rattler's making throws. Carr just doesn't, especially under pressure. Not meaning to hate on DC4, but he just looks better. Well, to add to that, because again, like you said, it's not about hating on one guy or towards the other, but for some people it may. And if that's you, that's totally okay. I'm not going to tell people how they should assess the Saints. What I'll say about Rattler is, and I don't think this is disputable, guys, I think he's the most talented quarterback on the Saints roster. Doesn't mean he's the best. Doesn't mean he's the most efficient. Doesn't mean he's the most ready. I think he's the most talented on the roster. And you see that with the throws he makes. There's throws he makes that the other guys just can't make. And it's okay for us to admit that. And as long as we have that kind of thought, it's okay. Because, man, he really does. There's certain drives, like the throw he made to St. Brown. In my opinion, I don't know if Derek Carr is making that throw consistently. I just don't, especially with Derek on the Saints. Derek on the Saints has not taken as many shots downfield and as many risks as he did with the Raiders. And I feel like that's just the truth. Vic says O-line's looking better. Again, inconsistent, but there are moments. They've opened up some running lanes from Landon Young. I've also seen Landon Young whiff at times. Same thing with Penning, as I mentioned before. Fuaga had a bad rep at one point. But again, with Fuaga, we feel a little bit more comfortable than we do with the other young guys. So there's inconsistencies, but there are positives. And what I'll say about the Saints is when their O-line is opening up those running lanes, they're exploiting it. And they're exploiting it without Alvin. Like you're using your backups in there. So if they can get this ground game and this run blocking scheme to fire on all cylinders in the regular season, I think the Saints are honestly going to have a chance here to do some damage. I really do. But we'll see. We'll see how this all plays out. But I really feel like the run game and their scheme, at least from a zone blocking perspective, is much better. Nappy says Rattler's getting no wide receiver help. Yeah, I didn't think Jake was either. I just think these wide receivers aren't good. And it sucks because the Saints, the last couple of years have started to go a little bit heavier towards adding talented players and skill players. Like, when you go out and get Olave and they tried to draft Kendrick Miller and they've tried here and there to expand, but I don't think this organization yet has grasped the idea of how much talent you have to add around your team. And when you might think it's enough, it's never enough in today's NFL because today's NFL is all about having these skilled players, and the Saints just don't have that right now. And it truly bothers me. But what am I going to do? I just don't think that this team right now is well positioned at that spot. I really don't. So we'll see. We'll absolutely see. And again, I wish that this team thought in April and May to add another guy because they just don't have it. Defense can't get off the field to even see enough of the offense. I will say, from ball control perspective, we have seen some rough goes at it for the Saints. We really have. But I think we'll get better. I really do. I'm not too worried about that aspect. And I think for this defense, while it might struggle today and it'll be rough because we're watching the second stringers, what I've seen from the first string this summer, I feel very happy about what they could be moving forward. I really do. Mitchell says, I thought Trevor looked pretty good today. Can't win every rep, but it definitely looked good. I agree. Cole says, A.T. Perry looks lost. All that positive momentum from the end of the season is gone. I agree. And I'm going to be honest, guys. I kind of think A.T. Perry, there's a chance he gets cut. I think that the Saints have already locked into keeping, Shaheed, Olave, and Cedric Wilson. Outside of that, I don't think the Saints have any guys that they're really committed to. And again, this isn't me saying it because I have any information. I don't. I just feel like the Saints have been frustrated with A.T. Perry. A.T. Perry hasn't looked that great. And it's frustrating because he started the preseason actually strong, and we just haven't seen him build off that. Margaret says, Rattler's killing it. I'm impressed so far. Where's the defense? They're lost on the field. No pressure on the QB at all. The pressure part really bothers me because, you did play Peyton Turner. Isaiah Foskey, he's so frustrating. We get on certain guys, understandably so. But think about it. I'll bash Penning, or you guys will bash Penning, or we'll get frustrated with Kendrick Miller. And Foskey's just out and about, healthy, but he's not a game changer. And that's a second-round pick who you got from Notre Dame who put up numbers, and we just haven't seen it at the pro level at all. It just seems like he's kind of getting cardio, and that's about it. Derek says, bro, these fucking receivers, Rattler looks so good. Yeah, the receivers on this team are not good at all. I think that I think that's a really big problem for this team. And that's also why before when we were talking about quarterbacks, it's hard to get on this quarterback group for the Saints. They don't have a lot of talented receivers. They don't have a lot of talented tight ends. Their running game is Alvin, and then who's going to be the playmaker? The Saints don't have a ton of talent on offense. It's pretty frustrating. This was from Alex before, I believe. I think I put it up, but I'll just throw it up there again while I'm at it. What do we have? Cooler Beats says, I think the Saints have to think about the future of the franchise and ask who they can build on offense around, who they can build their offense around. I think it's Rattler. It's possible. Look, again, for Spencer, there's got to be patience. There's got to be development. I think if Spencer were to start this year, I think he would get kind of roughened up. But the arm talent is there. The confidence is there. The maturity is definitely there. He's gotten way better in that department. I think best case for Spencer is he gets to sit, watch Derek Carr, and not play this year. I think that's the best thing for him. And we'll see if that actually ends up happening. But I really do think that would be the best possible scenario for him. I really do. And we'll see if the Saints feel that way. But I think that the odds of him playing this year are probably pretty slim. I'd be surprised if he plays. It's NFL football. Wide receivers make those catches all over the league. They do. Just not when you have, to this point, the worst wide receiver room in the NFL, which I don't know if the Saints have the worst wide receiver room in the NFL. That might be a little too harsh. But I definitely think that the Saints, have a wide receiver room that is so top heavy, and the top heavy part isn't even good enough to overcome the rest of it. I know Olave can be good at times, even great. And I know Shaheed can be explosive. But other than that, that's it. And you don't have anything to lean on. Why do we have everyone's brother playing wide receiver? That's kind of funny. Yeah, you have Puka Nakua's brother. You have Amon-Ra St. Brown's brother. Wish you could get one of those and not the brother, the actual OG thing, but not the case, you know? Derek says line with starters on is still getting cooked and receivers dropping everything. Rattler could be Purdy if we gave him a team. Look, it's possible. It is possible. That is, by the way, because everyone loves to rip on Brock for like the dumbest reason. That is hopefully the optimism for the Saints is if Rattler could end up being the guy, you can build around him, you know, with Olave, with Shaheed, get some pieces around him next year through the draft. And again, I don't think Rattler starts this year. I think it's ridiculous to think he would. But that is why when you watch these preseason games and he makes throws like he does, you got to get a little excited because if the Saints are going to get out of this kind of rut that they're in, it starts with finding your quarterback of the future and then building around that guy. And I think they can. Mitchell says, someone tell Isaiah Foskey his job is to shed the tackle, not stay attached to him for 8 seconds. I think that's fair. Lower your expectations, Saints fans. Hopefully the division is close. I still think it might be close. I just don't know if the NFC South has enough firepower for someone to just kind of blow their way through and make things happen. I just don't. I have my doubts. I'll leave it at that because I just don't think this is that talented of a group. I know the Falcons have talent on paper, but is their coach good enough? Is Kirk Cousins going to play good enough post-Achilles? Tampa Bay, is their coach good enough? Is Baker going to repeat what he did last year? And then for the Saints, yeah, they're in a similar spot, but similar spot might actually be good enough in this division. Jordan says, who needs to turn their game around in the second half to make the team? That's a good question. I'm going to be honest, guys. AC Perry or Bub Memes, one of them's got to ball out in the second half. And I think, you know, for them, that's going to be paramount. Defensively, I mean, Foskey, maybe his job is secure because of his draft status, but it shouldn't. Kicking battle, Blake Grupe's made field goal was huge for him. Punting, you know, that is important. Matt Hayball and Lou Headley, someone's got to win a job out there. So that's what I'd kind of focus on. But yeah, wide receiver, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be very interesting. Dark says, what are you saying? Carr aired it out to Shaheed many times for a touchdown, stop the cap. That connection I like, which by the way, I am a little worried about Shaheed missing time because, you know, Carr's got to build that connection even further, and you can't do that if Shaheed's missing time. What I would argue is I think Derek Carr took more chances in Vegas than he did with the Saints. I think the Saints was a lot of check downs here and there. Now, if the Saints get the ground game going, you could build the play action game off that, and then hopefully Derek takes his shots. I think Derek should be a little bit more risky with the football than he is, in my opinion. And maybe that's foolish of me to say. I would like to see him take a couple more chances. Clamper says, is Kendre on cut alert? Mims looks good. I mean, they could put him on IR, so I'm not 100% sure. Like, they can put Kendre on the roster, start the season, then move him to IR, keep Mims, and then re-sign Robinson after putting Kendre on IR. So I wouldn't be shocked if that's where they go. But frustration can mount up, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Saints say, you know what? Fuck it. Like, we're going to move on, and we're going to decide to go in a different direction. I wouldn't be totally surprised by that. But I don't think there's a guarantee as to where they'll go. I just think that Kendre is definitely on alert. I just don't think that it's anything crazy. Now, I'll get into one more comment before we get into the second half because it just started. We'll go with, let's see what we got. We'll go with James saying, what caught us with Rattler is a small sample of a mobile, accurate quarterback in today's NFL. Although he's not a top mobile QB, we have been starved so long, we're taking what we can because of inept leadership. Yeah, that's pretty fascinating. By the way, Saints opening up the second half with a fumble, which, hey, you know what that means? We get to see the offense play, so that's great. Speaking of getting to see the offense play, that means I'm going to shift over to watching the game. But, guys, I just want to remind you that I will be doing a post-game live stream. It's going to be here at Boo Crew Media, so make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you guys get alerted for that. It'll be much longer, which means we can get more of your comments in. So if you guys had anything that I didn't get to that you'd like to, when we get that link up for the post-game live stream, drop it in there, and I promise you I'll pull it up on the screen and we'll get your thoughts. But that's going to wrap it up for this halftime report, which was presented by 4D. But yeah, second half's underway. We're going to get it started. We'll be back here in a little bit for a straight up Saints episode. But let's see if the Saints can pull this out and get a win. So I'll talk to you guys in a little bit.